Hey everybody, what up? Sorry, I was in a Zoom meeting and with the BLT, and now I'm here. So hey everybody, gosh, we got a bunch of people jumping in the chat. You guys are getting good at this. So how's everybody doing tonight? Everybody talk to me. Anybody soak in some sunshine today? Joyce Canning made it all the way to Kroger today. That's awesome. So all right, we're going to continue the march with Joseph here. So okay. Give everybody a chance to get in here. All right, Angie was out in her garden today. That's good. Val worked a 12-hour shift. Take a couple dogs for a walk. That's good. Hi, Scott. Matt Clements is got the grill out, making it happen. Good for you, dude. Joyce made it to Kroger. Hi, Cheryl. Hey, Sue. We're going to have some fun here tonight. Amy's around here. Amy's been busy today. Hey, Parker. Eric, it was a beautiful day, my man. No doubt about it. So cool. All right. Well, Cool Hand Luke watched the grass grow this evening. That's good. Any news for Pastor Tim? Not anything I'm at liberty to say, I guess. So, meeting was okay. Yep, meeting was okay. So, hi, Sherry. I want you all to know that tomorrow night I will be donning a shirt donated by Sherry Louth in honor of Earth Day, which is tomorrow. So tonight I'm presenting Honda because this is the shirt I grabbed off the rack. And tomorrow I will be representing Earth Day. So props to everybody wearing Earth Day paraphernalia tomorrow for Earth Day. So doesn't sound good. Earth Day doesn't sound good, Val. All right. All right. Hi, Bill Har. And all right, appreciate y'all coming out. Hey, let's gosh, what do we want to start with here tonight? I'll tell you what I'm doing tomorrow. Tomorrow morning, Cool Hand Luke's Earth Day is in June. Okay, I'm not sure that my T-shirt will represent that, Cool Hand Luke, but okay. And no, you're meeting. That's all right. We all survive. We're gonna be fine. And Joyce Koenig says, "Don't have any Earth Day pajamas." I don't know if they make those. I'm not a pajama expert though, but who knows? Hey, how many of you enjoyed the video that I did of shooting the people down at the entrance? We had the thing for Sunday when all the people came through. You guys, those of you who were able to see it, did you enjoy that? Enjoy the seeing all the folks? Everybody know what I'm talking about? Oh man, the lag is bad tonight. All right, good. Well, we're gonna try another one on tomorrow. Well, next Sunday. I have a whole list of shut-ins given to me by Angie, and I'm going to be making the rounds tomorrow, filming some shut-ins. So you're going to get to see some other folks from the church, some shut-ins and other folks who should not be getting out. So there'll be more faces coming out tomorrow, or be filmed tomorrow, but you won't see it until Sunday. But going to get around and make my way through some of the patio homes at Otterbein and hit up a few homes. It's different places. I'm not going inside anybody's house, so I don't because for safety reasons. But I am going to shout at them from their yard and tell them to come out so I can film them and we're gonna have fun. So I'm starting tomorrow at what's my earliest appointment? At 10 o'clock. I'm going to be at Joyce Koenig's house. Oh, my word. So tomorrow at 10 o'clock, I'm going to be getting around, filming with Joyce, and then I'm going to be running around a little bit there, and I'll be out till about, what's my last appointment? It looks like around 2 o'clock. I'm going to spend a couple of hours cruising around, so visiting some shut-ins from their yard and seeing how everybody's doing. And I'll be wearing – oh, I took my mask home. As a lot of you saw the Batman mask I have. Not the Batman mask, but the Batman mask that I have. And I'll be wearing that for safety purposes tomorrow. So I'll be looking forward to that. Pray for me and the Beetle as we'll be making the rounds around some of our shut-ins. So, okay. Genesis 41. It seems to me that's where we are tonight. And going to be continuing the epic saga of Joseph. And hey, Janine, glad to have you. You haven't missed anything yet. So, Matt Clemens, that sounds like fun? It does sound like fun. So that's what I'm doing. And very good. So, all right. So Genesis 41. And let's quickly recap where we've been. Joseph of Genesis 37, we met, spoiled rich kid who did all this. Yeah, Joyce, please take Teresa's advice. Spoiled rich kid who aggravated his brothers and was basically a pain. Nobody liked him, and it was aggravating to everybody. So his brothers decided to get rid of him. They were going to kill him and decided against that. They threw him in a cistern and ended up selling him into slavery. He ends up, so the Ishmaelites take him on to Egypt. The Ishmaelite traders sell him to Potiphar, who was a captain of the guard. Potiphar's wife then made advances toward Joseph, which he rebuffed. And then that got him in trouble because then she accused him of things he didn't do. That got him thrown into a prison, probably in Potiphar's house. And so he was there. He quickly became in charge of the prison because Potiphar, we speculated that was because Potiphar was watching out for him. And then, okay, so Potiphar, Joseph was in charge. A couple of guys, a bartender and a baker, ended up in the prison. They came down, had dreams. Joseph had a conversation with them, interpreted the dreams. It worked out well for the bartender, not so much for the baker. And Joseph had told the bartender, "Hey, dude, when you get out, put in a good word for me. Can you do that?" And guy's like, "Sure, I can do that." And he didn't do that. So he completely forgot about Joseph. He had his old life back, and that's really all he cared about anyways. So he went for it. Okay? That's the very fast version of how we got to this point. Okay, so now here we are, Genesis chapter 41. So he had interpreted dreams for the two guys, worked out well for one, not so much for the other. And then the one guy it worked out for forgot him. And the first words of Genesis 41 are 2 full years later. 2 full years later, Joseph was in this prison where he was running the show and taking care of stuff. So for 2 years later. So all this stuff is happening, and we're going to start here, Genesis 41, verse 1. 2 full years later, Pharaoh dreamed that he was standing on the bank of the Nile River. Okay, so Pharaoh's now having dreams. In his dream, he saw 7 fat, healthy cows come up out of the river and begin grazing on the marsh grass. Okay? Cows that come out of the river, right? I mean, that's what cows do. I mean, they're going for a swim, doing the backstroke, something. But for whatever reason, came out of the water, wandered up, and were munching on grass. Fabulous. And then he saw 7 more cows come up behind them. So now there were 14 cows apparently swimming down the Nile. I don't question that was the dream. So he saw 7 more cows come up behind them from the Nile, but these were scrawny and thin. So the fat cows came out. Yes, yeah, sea cows, whatever those are. So the fat cows came out first, and they were munching away on the grass. And then the 7 scrawny cows came out and decided to munch on something else. So those cows, meaning the scrawny and thin cows, stood next to the fat cows on the riverbank. Then the scrawny thin cows ate the 7 healthy fat cows. So I guess by this logic, the logic of Pharaoh's dream, eating grass makes you fat, eating protein makes you scrawny. I don't know if any nutritionists would ever agree with a statement like that, but there you go. So that's what he saw. And you can imagine that Pharaoh thought, well, first of all, I'm not going to have chocolate before I go to bed anymore because that makes weird things. So, and hey, Cheryl, welcome. Glad to have you. And manatees. Manatees are sea cows. Okay, I don't know how many of them are swimming in the Nile River, though, because I recall manatees are big, aren't they? I mean, big, like big actual cows. So, but anyways, cows came up and all right, yes, sea cows live in brackish water, and we would know that our science teacher would tell us that. Thank you, Sherry. And it does match my column today. For those of you who may have read my column in the newspaper, we talked about how to not be the fat cows anymore. Wow, that didn't come out right. But yes, we talked a little bit about that. So, okay, so the scrawny cows eat the fat cows, and that was the first dream. Pharaoh woke up. So he somehow was upset about this. Cool Hand Luke gets some bonus points because he did read the article today. I know that because he commented on it online. And so Cool Hand Luke, everybody tell Luke that he's awesome because that's how we reward people in this thing we live in now. So everybody tell Cool Hand Luke, say Cool Hand Luke, you're awesome. Matt, you're not doing very well at this. So, all right. So Pharaoh woke up. And all was well, and whatever. And then he went back to sleep again, had a second dream. This time he saw 7 heads of grain, plump and beautiful, growing on a single stalk. Okay, so you got the grain. Y'all seen the amber waves of grain. You know what I'm talking about. And then 7 more heads of grain appeared, but these were shriveled and withered by the east wind. Okay. All of a sudden, we're like, seeing a little parallel. We got fat cows, skinny cows. We got fat grain and thin grain, I guess. But so that's what he sees in his dream. And then, again, just like before, the thin head swallowed up the 7 plump, well-formed heads. How does grain eat grain? I guess the same way cows swim. I don't know. But anyways, that's what Pharaoh saw. Then Pharaoh woke up again and realized it was a dream because he'd never seen grain eat each other before or something. Okay, so Pharaoh had these 2 weird dreams. And he wanted somebody to tell him what these dreams meant because they were upsetting to him. And again, and I said last night, and I'll maintain that, I've struggled with nightmares most of my adult life. Really had a horrible time with it. And they'll go through seasons where they're a little worse and then they get a little better. So, and if you've ever been there, you know that it's upsetting and it's not something that you want to deal with. So, all right. Okay, thanks, everybody. All right, so we got Matt and Cool Hand Luke are disrespecting each other, but everybody else did great. Good. What article? Cheryl, my article that's in the newspaper. It's on the website. It should be in the email I sent out today. You probably haven't seen it since you just got home, but if you want to check that out, it's on the website. Okay, so Pharaoh has this dream. He wants somebody to tell him what it's going to mean. So the next morning, Pharaoh was very disturbed by his dream, so he called his own expert. He called all the magicians, wise men of Egypt. Pharaoh told them his dreams. Not one of them could tell him what it meant. So you had dreams of swimming cows, fat cows first, scrawny cows next, scrawny cows eating fat cows. I don't know how cows swim. Then you got fat grain, then you've got scrawny grain. The scrawny grain eats the fat grain. How does grain eat? I still don't know. Okay. So all the magicians were like, dude, are we sure Pharaoh's not losing it? I mean, I got nothing, Pharaoh. I don't know. And Pharaoh, as you can imagine, since he threw the other two guys in prison for offending him, the magicians are paid to do a job, and well, they're kind of failing at that job right now. So all the magicians are probably mildly freaking out. What are we going to do? And so he called the magicians and the wise men of Egypt. Pharaoh told them his dreams. Not one of them could tell them what they meant. Finally, 2 years later, the king's cupbearer spoke up. Oh, my word. I forgot. How did I forget? I forgot to mention this. The cupbearer spoke up. He says, today I've been reminded of my failure. That, my friends, is what we call mild understatement. I mean, this is kind of a 2-year faux pas right here, where he was supposed to say something and he neglected to do that. Today I've been reminded of my failure, he told him. Some time ago, last week, 2 years ago, something, I don't know. Some time ago, you were angry with the chief baker and me. You imprisoned us in the palace of the captain of the guard. One night, the chief baker and I also each had a dream, and each dream had its own meaning. There was a young Hebrew man in prison. There's a young Hebrew man. I'm getting lost here. There was a young Hebrew man with us in prison who was a slave of the captain of the guard. We told him our dreams, and he told us, each of us, what our dreams meant. And everything happened just how it was predicted. I was restored to my position as the cupbearer, and the chief baker was executed and impaled on a pole. Okay. So now Pharaoh goes, oh, there's a guy in jail. In my jail. Nobody bothered to tell me about this till now. So Pharaoh says, clean him up, get him up here. I'd like to talk to him. It was a dream grain can easily eat in a dream. Oh, there you go. Tim, I did not realize this, but maybe it can happen. So all right. So he sent down to the prison to say, have Joseph brought up. So Pharaoh sent for Joseph at once. So imagine this. 2 years later, what happened to Joseph during those 2 years? We have absolutely no idea. We're not told anything. So for 2 years, Joseph was, I'm assuming, still doing his work and still, making good on this. But whatever happened, we don't know what was going on with Joseph because we're not told. We're just knowing it was a significant amount of time later. Okay, so he was down there. So after he shaved and changed his clothes. So Joseph's getting a little upgrade, getting a little cleaned up here. Maybe this is what some of us are going to do after this COVID-19 thing. We're going to shave and change our clothes for the first time in 2 months or something. So he's going to shave and change his clothes. And then he went and stood before Pharaoh. He became presentable and he presented himself. Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, now, you got to realize Joseph has to know this is his opportunity. Okay, this is his opportunity to get out there and get seen and get noticed and have some of the muckety-mucks and the powers that be realize what he can do. Now, remember, the stage has been set for this very well. Pharaoh has made no. It's not like he was withholding this secret from anybody. Everybody knew that Pharaoh had these dreams. So this is nothing people weren't aware of. And he'd already called, it says, all the magicians and wise men in Egypt. So he called all the boys together, and he put this question to them, and they all were like, I don't know. They had nothing to tell him. So after all that, so now everybody is in on this. And we're going to go down to the prison and get this guy that's been down there for who knows how long now to come up and do this thing. So as you can imagine, given how many people are involved, Now all eyes are on Joseph. This is what we call a high pressure situation. Because this is make or break. This is one of those life dividing moments where everything in your life is going to be divided into what happened before versus what happened after. That's this moment. Okay, so he knows, and Joseph has to know. He's no dumb guy. He knows that this is a big moment. So he's standing. He's standing there. What have they told him at this point? I have no idea. Did they say, well, Pharaoh had a dream? Did they tell him what the dream was? I mean, everybody knew. I don't know what they did. But here he is now in Pharaoh, and this is his big opportunity. And remember, his big opportunity is swimming cows. And yes, actually, cows can swim, apparently, Kim is telling me, but I don't think they do that often. So you got fat cows and skinny cows eating fat cows, and you got skinny grain eating fat grain and whatever else. That's his opportunity. So tell me, this is going to be Joseph's, well, not his last big moment, but up to this point, his big moment. This is his opportunity to, do something. Fat cows getting eaten by skinny cows. Fat grain getting eaten by skinny grain. All that is weird. Wouldn't it have been great if Pharaoh had a different kind of a dream, or maybe it wasn't about a dream at all. It was about a management issue, because Joseph clearly knew management and organization. I mean, clearly he was gifted at that. But no, the opportunity that God had been leading him up to for multiple years, including ruining his life, selling him as a slave, putting him in Potiphar's house, having him accused of misconduct by Potiphar's wife, having him in jail, meeting the cupbearer and the bartender and the baker, having the bartender forget about him for 2 years. All of that has come to scrawny cows eating fat cows, scrawny grain eating fat grain. How do you think Joseph felt about that? That's a lot to go through for that to be what you're being handed. Okay, Tim, clearly, this is a moment of guts because he was the only one brave enough to go be wrong in front of a guy who impales people on poles. And clearly, Joseph knew Pharaoh was capable of that. So you're right. There was some I'm about to say courageousness, but that's not a word. There was some courage going into this. All right, so he was being encouraged. He had courage. But my friends, this is a lot to go through. To have your big moment be scrawny cows eating fat cows and scrawny grain eating fat grain. It's a lot to go through. And I bet Joseph was thinking, when he's walking down the hallway and he's given the razor to shave off his beard and cut his hair, and he gets a new change of clothes and a bath, and he gets to go into the palace, which, remember, he grew up in a rich man's home, so he knew about nice places. He'd been in Potiphar's house. He knew about nice places, and he'd been in the prison in Potiphar's house, so not exactly the dank, dark prison we think of, but still not ideal. Years in the making. And Joseph was like, finally. And he goes out there, and it's fat cows eaten by scrawny cows and fat grain eaten by skinny grain. That's the opportunity. How many times in our lives have we gotten to a payoff moment? We done the stuff, we persevered. We thought we were getting to a place. We thought something great was about to happen. We thought there was going to be a breakthrough. We thought a situation was about to turn around. And actually, the opportunity that was handed to us after all that we'd been through was a fat cow eaten by a skinny cow and fat grain eaten by skinny grain. Was Joseph disappointed? That's my question. After all of this, His entire life is going to come down to Pharaoh asking him a question about a completely insane dream that he has. Now, look, we all know how the story ends, okay? So I know we can't speculate that way. We know what's going to happen. You all know the story of Joseph. But understand, Joseph didn't know the story of Joseph yet because the story of Joseph had not been told yet. So when he ends up before Pharaoh and Pharaoh's talking to him about this fever dream that he had, was he disappointed? I mean, can't you just think Joseph is going, oh my grossest word. All of this comes down to a stupid dream? You got to admit he was tempted to say that. You got to admit that. He was tempted to say, I can't believe it all came down to this. Now, God ain't done yet. The story ain't done yet. The famine hasn't even shown up yet. In fact, the preamble to the famine hasn't even started yet. The famine is still coming. That's going to be Joseph's swan song, but he has no way to know that yet. His opportunity on this day from Genesis 41 is Pharaoh's fever dream. This weird thing about skinny things eating fat things. Was Joseph disappointed? And if not, which clearly he took advantage of the situation because he did what God asked him to do, could you have done that? Have you ever gotten to a point when the payoff just didn't feel worth it? He was thinking, I shaved for this. Cool hand Luke. I bet he was thinking that. You know? I see Cheryl says he has confidence God's with him, so how can he lose? Maybe so, but you got to realize he's still up against this dream. Yes, I agree, Cheryl. I'm sure that he believed that with all of his heart. But it had to be, at least at this point, feel a little anticlimactic. It's all in God's timing. Teresa says this is a moment Joseph will need to completely trust God. Clearly, I don't disagree with any of this. Joseph was ready, had years to get ready. I agree. All that. But you got to remember, friends, this is still a dream that I can imagine most of the people in Pharaoh's court were laughing at him about. Oh, my word. Fat cows. Can you believe this? Maybe that's why none of them had an answer. The point that they're making here is I think that everyone thought that Pharaoh was ridiculous. Why are we worried about dreams, Pharaoh? Especially dreams about scrawny things eating fat things. Why? What? Why? Yes, Eric, possibly saying what's going to happen now? How much worse is this going to get? It could have been that Joseph was on his way up there wondering if he was going to end up being like the bartender or the baker. Yeah, I mean, that's very well what could have been happening. And again, Teresa, I agree. God had to do this, and Joseph clearly agrees with that. But the point that I'm trying to make here, and I must not be, I don't think I'm making it very clearly. I apologize. The point that I want you to see is Joseph got over his disappointment. Joseph took this seriously. Where everyone else could very well have been laughing at the thought of swimming cows and eating grain, Joseph stood up there, and as we're about to see, the fact that, and again, I'm sure it was wonderful to get a shave and a change of clothes and a bath. I'm sure that was wonderful. But you have to realize that Joseph could have been like, this is, what is this? Are you kidding me after all this time? He could have told Pharaoh to get lost. You let me languish in prison for 2 years. I don't care about your dreams. This is stupid. His attitude is going to make a big difference here. And he clearly went at this with a proper attitude. And Joseph knew he had to take it serious. Val, I agree. The warning here is if Joseph goes in there and goes, first of all, has a chip on his shoulder toward the bartender. I think somebody said that. That could be a problem. Or if he goes in there and says, I hate Pharaoh, I'm going to tell him an anvil's about to fall on his head, and not listen to God and just, try to screw him up. Joseph took this very seriously. The lesson that I want us to take from this is that sometimes in life, opportunities are going to come along that we're not going to want to take seriously. Yeah, gosh, wow. I'm getting convicted from the meeting I just came from. I just sometimes an opportunity is going to knock, and we're going to think it was something else, and we're going to have convinced ourselves it was something else. And when it finally gets here, we're going to find out that God had a different idea the whole time. And Joseph went into this meeting open. Whatever Pharaoh said, he was going to listen to it and he was going to abide by it because he truly had placed this in God's hands. And so when Pharaoh said, well, here's my dream, skinny cows eating fat cows, when everyone else might have been chuckling or not taking it serious, Joseph was ready. Joseph listened. Joseph put God to work, and did all these things. We're going to see that here in just a second. So that's what I want you to learn is understand that God may move in ways that we don't expect. And if we allow our disappointment to get the better of us, we may miss the opportunity. So there you go. All right. Verse 15. Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, I had a dream last night, and no one here can tell me what it means. But I've heard that when you hear about a dream, you can interpret it. Now, remember what he told the baker and the bartender back in the day. He says the same thing here, so he shows some consistency. Joseph says, verse 16, it's beyond my power to do this, Joseph replied, but God can tell you what it means and set you at ease. Faith in God. That's true, Cheryl. Clearly, he had learned his lesson about taking dreams seriously and not realizing that God works, and we don't get to pick and choose how that is as much as we would like to. So, and Kuan Luke, you can pray for me all the time, buddy. Thank you. So, all right. So, verse 16. It is beyond my power to do this, Joseph replied, but God can tell you what it means and set you at ease. So Pharaoh told Joseph his dream. In my dream, he said, I was standing on the bank of the Nile River. I saw 7 fat, healthy cows come up out of the river and begin grazing on the marsh grass. But then I saw 7 sick-looking cows, scrawny and thin, come up after them. I've never seen such sorry-looking animals in all the land of Egypt. Do you see there's more detail being given now? When Pharaoh told the dream the first time, he didn't mention this. I've never seen such sorry. I mean, he didn't elaborate that much. He didn't. I don't want to use the word embellish because that implies he's making things up. I don't mean that at all. But he's being more open with Joseph. Why? Again, this is Pastor Tim's speculation. But the idea here is that I think when Pharaoh looked at Joseph, he realized Joseph was taking him more seriously than some of these other guys. The magicians and the wise men and whatever else didn't take Pharaoh as seriously as Joseph was. I think that's why Joseph is getting the more complete account of the dream. Okay, because notice how many more details Joseph gets than what was originally reported in this dream. I've never seen such sorry-looking animals in all the land of Egypt. Verse 20. Then these thin, scrawny cows ate the 7 fat cows, but afterward you wouldn't have known it. For they were still as scrawny and thin as before. Again, that's a detail we didn't know. Then I woke up. Okay, a lot of, again, not contradictory details, but additional details that Pharaoh didn't share with anyone else. I think it's because Pharaoh could tell Joseph was taking this opportunity seriously, even though, if you think about it, how ridiculous this is. But Joseph was taking this opportunity very seriously. Okay, so verse 22. Then I fell asleep again after dreaming about scrawny and fat cows. I fell asleep again. I had another dream. This time I saw 7 heads of grain, full and beautiful, growing on a single stalk. Then 7 more heads of grain appeared, but these are blighted, shriveled, and withered by the east winds. Again, a few more words there we didn't get before. And the shriveled heads swallowed the 7 healthy heads. I told these dreams to the magicians, but no one could tell me what they meant. Okay? So Pharaoh laid it all out there. Joseph responded. Now, as I read this response, I want you to hear these words, and I want you to think about how confident these words sound. Okay, and I know you're getting my interpretation because obviously I'm the one reading them. But I want you to hear the confidence that comes through. This is confidence of a man who knows what he's doing. And this is the confidence of a man who believes in what he's doing and believes where he's at in his life. Here's what it says. Verse 25. Joseph responded, both of Pharaoh's dreams mean the same thing. God is telling Pharaoh in advance what he's about to do. Notice, capital G-O-D, God. This is not one God among many. This is the God of the Hebrews, as they would express it in this time period. This is not Ra or one of the Egyptian gods. This is God, the one and only. So God is telling Pharaoh in advance what he's about to do. Now, all right, let's stop here because we need to discuss this. Why would God go to a pagan and tell a pagan, hey, pal, everybody's about to die. It's really going to be unpleasant. Why would God give that warning? What is God's motive in telling Pharaoh what's about to happen? Because as you read the Old Testament, one of the few consistent things that you'll find is the Egyptians are never the good guys, or very rarely are the good guys. And they're generally looked at as one of the chief enemies of God's people. And if you look at a map in the area where a lot of the Old Testament took place, Egypt was very close. It's like, United States and Canada or whatever. It's, two countries that are very close. And why would he tell them? Okay, Matt Clement says to prove a point. And I think a point's about to be proven to Joseph and to the whole world that God is the real deal. Why else would God reveal to a pagan leader? Pharaoh was ruling the land. He was in charge. God never gives up on his children. Okay, Janine. Yeah, he did not give up on his children. Pharaoh is going to end up realizing the power of this God, and we're going to see that extremely clearly, Bill. Very good. Cool Hand Luke says he's using the powerful to show his own power. That's right. Because Pharaoh is given a chance to respond to the famine. He has no power to stop it, and God has the power to reveal that. Great answers, guys. This famine was going to impact more than just Egypt. Save people, Susan. That's exactly where I was going. I think what he was trying to do here is Pharaoh was the one in charge. So if anybody's going to be able to save lives, it's going to be Pharaoh. Pharaoh is the only one going to be powerful enough at this point. Because remember, well, I haven't read this yet. Spoiler alert. There's going to be 7 great, prosperous, wonderful years. And it's going to be fantastic. And what God is warning them, he says, hey, guys, during the good times, stockpile and build and be prepared so that when things go south for 7 years, you'll survive. Without that, they just would have had 7 bumper years, and then in the 8th year, they'd all have been dead. So what God was giving them a chance to do was to use the prosperous years to prepare for the lean years. And that's what I think nobody but Pharaoh at that time period would have been powerful enough to create a response of this magnitude, a response that was going to be up to the needed challenge, okay? So God was using the powerful, as somebody said, using the powerful to show his power. It's exactly what was about to happen. And go buy up toilet paper. Good advice there, Matt. So Joseph turned his life over and gives all credit to God. And and we can see that, Val, a number of times. So, all right. Okay. Okay. So, sorry, I lost my place. Both of Pharaoh's dreams mean the same thing. Okay. Verse 26. The 7 healthy cows and the 7 healthy heads of grain both represent 7 years of prosperity. 7 thin, scrawny cows that came up later and the 7 thin heads of grain withered by the east wind represent 7 years of famine. This is what will happen, just as I describe it. That's a confident thing to say, right? For God has revealed to Pharaoh in advance what he is about to do. The next 7 years will be a period of great prosperity throughout the land of Egypt. But afterward, there will be 7 years of famine so great that the prosperity will be forgotten in Egypt. Famine will destroy the land. This famine will be so severe that even the memory of the good years will be erased. So that is okay, verse 32. As for having two similar dreams, it means that these events have been decreed by God and he will soon make them happen. Okay. So this is now Joseph's interpretation of what's about to happen. Hey, Chuck and Bed Deploy, welcome. Glad to see you guys out tonight. And good. Okay, very good. And maybe lose my place. That's the interpretation. 7 very, very good years, followed by 7 very, very bad years. And we want to use those time to prepare. So, okay, that's the interpretation. And now everybody understands, at least everybody who's listening understands what's about to happen. Now, okay, we know what's about to happen. So many times we want to ask, okay, now I know it. What do I do with it? You know, what is supposed to happen based on what's going on, what we're told. Okay. So now I want you to listen very, very closely to what I'm about to say. And my question that I'm going to ask as soon as I'm done reading this, the question I'm going to ask is, what's not said? Because I told you this a number of times. It's always important to read the Bible. And the Bible is so powerful that the Bible can even speak when it says nothing. So I want you to listen to what Joseph says. Now that he's interpreted the dream, he's going to have one more statement. I want you to listen to what he says. Tell me what you don't hear. You ready? Oh, hold on here. Tim Dickey. Also, the Hebrews would need to turn to Egypt. Yes, that's right. Pharaoh saving everybody, Tim. That's exactly right. So verse 33. Tell me what you don't hear. Therefore, Pharaoh should find an intelligent and wise man to put him in charge of the entire land of Egypt. Then Pharaoh should appoint supervisors over the land and let them collect 1/5 of all the crops during the 7 good years. Have them gather all the food produced in the good years that are just ahead and bring it to Pharaoh's storehouses. Store it away and guard it so there will be food in the cities. That way there'll be enough to eat when the 7 years of famine come to Egypt. Otherwise, this famine will destroy the land. What did you not hear? What did Joseph not say? Did you catch anything that was lacking from what Joseph said? Go ahead, Luke's got it. What did Joseph not say? His own name, friends. You got it. He never says, put this guy in charge. This guy right here. He never says that. Never says that. Joseph, I love the guy. I love this guy. Right? That's right. Okay, a lot of you got that. Cool. I love this guy because he has every right to say, well, what God is saying, and you brought me here today to tell you that I should be put in charge so that I can run this whole show and blah, 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 blah. He does not say that. He doesn't say, God says you should prepare for this famine and let me go. He doesn't say that. He doesn't ask to be in charge. He doesn't even ask to be let out of prison. For all he knows, Pharaoh's going to go, oh my gosh, okay, take this guy back while we figure out he doesn't say that. Joseph lets it open that he may, with his nice clean shaved face, may go back to the prison cell or back to not cell, but prison area where he was. That very well could happen. Joseph makes no attempt to say, God wants me to do this. He never says that. Why did he not say it? Why did Joseph not say it? He's already done something that the magicians couldn't do. He's done something the wise men couldn't do. He's done something that nobody else has been able to do. He told Pharaoh what this ridiculous dream meant, or these two ridiculous dreams meant. Why didn't Joseph throw a caveat in there and say, ding, 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 let me do it? Why did he not say that? Somebody tell me, why did Joseph not say that? Why did Joseph not say, let me do this? Okay, Matt says he doesn't want it. We can make that argument, but that may not be entirely true. Possibly. Okay, Pharaoh could have killed the messenger, and nobody wants that. Val says he knows that he's humble. Okay. There you go, Linda. God is in charge. That's it. If God wants me to be in charge of this thing, God's going to put me there. He don't need me to prime the pump here. Okay? He wants to give God the glory. He's learned to be humble. The future's in God's hand, Jack. It's exactly right. Humble, Derek. That's exactly right. Go ahead, Luke. He doesn't want to help the pagans. He does want to help the pagans because remember, back when Joseph was talking to the bartender, he tells him his story. I was taken from my home and I want to go back there. Well, when Joseph realizes that this famine is coming, he knows that this famine is going to be big and it's going to affect more than just the immediate area in Egypt. He knows that his own people are going to be threatened. And he also knows, or at least has reason to believe, that they're not going to be any more ready for it than the Egyptians are. So since Pharaoh is the one with the power, I'm going to have to allow God to work through him to save my people. I'll be the first one to admit he may or may not care at all about the pagans, about the Egyptians. He may not care about them, but he does care about his people. And at the end of the day, his people surviving the famine is all that he wanted. And he wanted God to lead that charge. And the only way that was going to happen, well, I can't say the only way, but the way that God appears to be leading for that to happen is that he wanted to use Pharaoh. So all Joseph does is deliver the message. He is the messenger. And by delivering this message, he's hoping that that will lead to the saving of his own people. Spoiler alert, it does. He has no way to know that at this point. Okay, so he wanted to go forward and save him. Now, as I warned you, I'm going to do every night of this study, and we're going to do this clear through the end. How different is Genesis 41, Joseph, from Genesis 37, Joseph? What was Joseph's dream? What was Joseph's dream in Genesis 37? It was bundles of grain bowing down to him, and then it was the sun, moon, and stars bowing down to him. I mean, now he has the chance to say, this guy, Pharaoh, I'm the man. And he doesn't do it. Couldn't wait to tell his brothers he was the man. Couldn't wait to tell his parents he was the man. Couldn't wait to tell everybody else he was the man. Now he has the chance to make himself the man, and he doesn't take it. My friends, Joseph has grown a lot. This journey that Joseph has been on has changed him in fundamental ways. Because let me tell you something. If the Joseph of Genesis 37 comes and stands before Pharaoh, this conversation goes a whole different direction. That's right, Matt. He has matured a lot. I mean, almost an unbelievable amount. There was a lot of hardship that went in to getting Joseph to this point. A lot. And it was a painful process. And it was, he had grown, he had transformed. The journey has changed him into a better, more humble man. Val and Eric, that's exactly right. We almost have two different people. Joseph of Genesis 37 and Joseph of Genesis 41. Almost two different people. Because Joseph essentially passed up the chance to fulfill the lifelong ambition of Joseph of Genesis 37. That's right, Scott. Huge dose of maturity. And God's work is very powerful, and I'm sure that um, Joseph understood that. My friends, what I want you to see here is the process that Joseph had been, the journey that Joseph has been on up to this point. It's been hard, it's been unfair, it's been difficult, it's been it's been really hard, and but it's gotten him this far. So I want to use Joseph's story, not just this part. I want to use the whole story, but I want to use this portion of Joseph's story to encourage you that sometimes, and going back to the book we read, sometimes when God breaks us, we come out better on the other side. I mean, who here is going to argue that Joseph of Genesis 37 is not near the man that Joseph of Genesis 41 is? And he has went through a mighty transformation. Yeah, I turned a mess into a message. I think that phrase came up last night too. Eric says, "Oh, good question, Cheryl." Valerie allowed his darkness in the prison that turned him around to the good. Clearly, at this point, do you think he's forgiven his brothers? Yes, and the reason I say that is because, in fact, I would go even earlier in the story to this. That 2 years prior, when he was speaking to the bartender, he made reference to, "I want to go home." I think if he was still mad at his brothers, I don't think he would have included that in the story. Now, if he would have said, "I would like to go home and mow them down with a machine gun," I guess that's a whole different thing. But that what he was saying there does not sound to me like a vengeance or anger. I think that forgiveness has happened. I think Joseph has recognized the error of his ways, which undoubtedly was one of the main points of the journey that Joseph is on. So I think that forgiveness has already taken place. I think that Joseph has realized, maybe his brothers didn't deal with it as well as they should have. I think that's a given. But I think that Joseph understands that his arrogance and his spoiled rich kid kind of way of approaching the world just was not working. Scott says, Jan says, it's amazing how he has grown and how each of us can grow. I mean, yes, friends, Joseph's story, and that's what I want you to take from these nightly studies. Joseph's story is our story. Joseph's opportunity is our opportunity. Because look, Joseph could have just as easily went in front of Pharaoh with his ridiculous fever dream and just said, "Forget you, Pharaoh. Have fun starving to death." Now, would he have been impaled on a pole? Yes, but maybe Joseph, if he gave up, doesn't care. And what I want you to see is the moment, the second that Joseph says, "To heck with all this crap," the famine destroys the world. The moment he gives up, the famine wins. As long as Joseph stays in the fight, there's somebody to stand against the famine. But that famine is going to be a threat the moment Joseph is out of the picture, because God had chosen Joseph as his champion. Again, for whatever reason. But that was God's choice. Now, if Joseph fails, could God have said somebody else? Fine, yes. I mean, there's no way we can know. But the way the story plays out, Joseph was the one who was going to have to stop the people from dying. Therefore, as soon as Joseph gets fed up with this and tells Pharaoh to get lost, and mouths off to Pharaoh, and starts being belligerent, and starts being angry, and starts being uncooperative, and refuses to grow, refuses to learn. The moment that happens, famine kills everyone. The whole world, the whole known world at that time starves to death. Cheryl says, I wonder if God needed him to forgive so that he would be forgiven and be ready to. Yes, because let me tell you something. If Joseph, again, spoiler alert, is going to end up receiving just a massive amount of power, just massive amounts. And if there's any resentment left in that man, somebody's going to pay, because he's going to have the power to make them pay. And God could not entrust that much power to a man harboring resentment. So did Joseph need to heal and forgive? Yes. That was a necessary part of the process, because when resentful people get power, when resentful people end up with power, people suffer, including the person with the power, because resentment has a way of just being a corrosive poison to everything. So, yeah. All right. Yeah. Fight the good fight, Val. Always fight the good fight. And Joseph is still fighting the good fight. The emptiness created by his time in prison made room in his heart for forgiveness to grow. We want forgiveness to be a decision, but most of the time it requires a process. Couldn't be more true. Now, Joe, and let me take your statement a step further, because I completely agree with you. That emptiness, though, could have been filled with anything. Luckily, at this point, it was filled with forgiveness and grace. Had it been filled with resentment and desire for vengeance, again, this whole story goes a whole different direction. That's why it's so important, friends, when you're going through difficult times, to learn the lesson, to not be filled with bitterness. Bitterness, I mean, and I've said this phrase before, bitterness is the poison that we drink hoping someone else will die. That's what bitterness is. And with the amount of power that God wants to bestow upon Joseph, if he has bitterness and resentment in his life, that power is going to be like nitros to that, man. It's going to just go everywhere. And he's going to become powerful enough to crush anybody he wants to crush. And God doesn't want to hand somebody like that much power, because that's dangerous to everyone, including the one who gets the power. So God needed that space, needed Joseph to grow, so that emptiness created by his time in prison would be a wellspring of grace and forgiveness. So that when the time came that Joseph said, guess what we're going to start doing today? Today we start saving lives. He will do that gracefully and as a man who has been through the ringer. He won't be a man doing it out of spite and anger and withholding and using his power as a weapon. Because again, that does nothing but hurt people. And God didn't want that. So growth and pruning is hard to go through, but when we're used for God's plan, it's a blessing and a payoff to see. Yes, Teresa, but that only happens if we allow God to do the work in us and we work alongside of him. If Joseph would have decided to just languish in prison and learn how to be angry and want to throw all his brothers in the fire and just, God would have said, I don't know if this guy like this can be trusted with this power, you know? And if that would have happened, God may have withheld the interpretation of these dreams, both the dreams of the baker and the bartender and the dream of Pharaoh. God may have withheld that skill and just left him in the prison, had he not grown, had he not proven he could be responsible with power. And that's the way he had to progress, and that's what God saw in him. So then God was willing to give Joseph power, and he ends up with a lot of power, which is a fulfillment of the dream arrogant Joseph in Genesis 37 had all them many years ago. Joseph ends up fulfilling his own dream, but not at all in the way he thought he was going to. His dream was to become a powerful and influential man. He certainly achieved that, but only by doing it in God's way, certainly not his own way. And that's a pretty good lesson for us to take from the story of Joseph. So, very good. Oh, my word. I have 45 seconds left. All right, I'm going to draw a line there. Does anybody remember where I was at before I got on that huge tangent? Okay, yep, right at verse 37. So we're going to stop at verse 36. Tomorrow we'll pick up with verse 37. So, yes, thank you, Cool and Luke. So, thank you, Joe. I'm in my office. All right, amazing. So, all right. Well, I appreciate you guys all coming out. I hope y'all are still working on this worksheet. asking questions and trying to figure this out. I actually told you I was struggling with the personal line. I had a hard time, and this morning I was praying, and I actually got an inspiration on that line, so I was able to put on a couple things. So continue working on it. I really want that worksheet to be a tool for you to be able to help you reflect on what God is doing. And thank you, Val. Please, everybody, give me a thumbs up before you go. That helps YouTube's page to show up in search engines more. Or when people do searches on YouTube, if our videos are getting lots of likes, it makes them easier to find. So if you don't know how to hit the thumbs up, close the live chat for just a second. You'll see it there. Click the thumbs up and then click live chat and we'll come right back. So, all right, how's everybody doing? You all enjoying this study? We got 41 people here tonight. You guys are awesome. You guys are so awesome. I just can't even get over this. I appreciate you guys coming out. All right, we're gonna take 1 minute and we're gonna do a challenge. Okay. All right, this is gonna be fun. All right, this may not be crazy. Who knows? Everybody get in the live chat. I want you to look at whoever commented last. So whoever's the last comment that you see on there, I want you to tell that person to have a great day tomorrow. So whoever is the last comment that you see in the chat right now, tell them to have a great day tomorrow. Oh, Cool Hand Luke, that is super cool, dude. Yes, that is awesome. I'm glad they like the worksheet, and yeah, appreciate that. That's very cool. So I'm glad you thought to even take it. I feel honored that you did that. So, Christina, we're glad to have you. All right, you guys do this. Come on, whoever's the last person in the chat, write something nice to him. Jess, you ought to have a great day tomorrow. Oh, this is actually kind of fun. Just watching who pops up here. Yep, whoever's the last person in the chat, tell them to have a great day tomorrow. All right. Hey, guys, I appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for letting me be a part of your evening. And I hope you're enjoying Joseph. We're going to keep working on this for a while. Stay tuned. We're going to be having some word about some future church services and how we're going to do this, what this is going to look like. We're still working on this. So I appreciate you all. I love you all very much. You guys just blessed me so much by even being here. Hey, Kaya Skinner, how you doing? So signing off from the underground bunker. Cool Hand Luke, somehow I knew that's where you live. So, all right, appreciate you all very much. Hopefully, somebody don't let me wait until 7:55. Somebody text me if I don't get something out earlier. Somebody text me and tell me to do it. I completely forgot to send that out tonight. I'm putting this on you guys. You guys make sure you tell me to send out that link because I sometimes am irresponsible with that. So make sure somebody reminds me to do that. All right. Yes. I will say hi to them on your behalf, Kaya. All right. Well, you guys are awesome. I'll take them because I can't be forgetting that again. So, yeah, leave that thumbs up. Everybody have a great night. And gosh, what is the last thing we're supposed to do? Some important thing. Seems like something about the hands, Eric. You're right. That's right, guys. Everybody go wash your hands.